The nuclear situation between India and Pakistan is one that is complex. In order to understand it, we must first try to understand what it is they are hoping to accomplish with their weapons. I don't believe that either Pakistan or India are attempting to go for nuclear superiority, that is to say, the goal of having more weapons than the other. Neither country is engaging in rapid escalation, and their stockpiles and military budgets are low and at a similar amount. The main point of contention is the type of weapons being constructed. India refuses to build tactical weapons, as they fear it will increase the odds of a conflict because Pakistan refuses to accept a no first use policy, that is to say, that they pledge to not strike first in the event of a conflict. Tactical weapons are short-range, low-yield weapons, used mainly for destruction of targets such as military bases, rather than cities with civilians. Because of the tactical nuke's low yield, India believes that the odds of them being used will increase since the targets will be tactical. However, I will argue that India should build tactical weapons in order to ease Pakistan into accepting a no first strike policy. Moreover, I believe that the increasing nuclear stockpile of China is causing India to increase their own stockpile in attempts to guard against the Chinese and Pakistani threats. All of these countries claim territory in the Kashmir region, and as a result, China is probably Pakistan's biggest ally. Pakistan and India seem to only be building about 10 new nuclear weapons per year, and both of their stockpiles are quite low at about 150 each. Moreover, their nuclear spending as part of the military budget is quite low for both of these countries. India only spends about 3% of its military budget on nuclear weapons, which resulted in less than 2.5 billion in 2019. Pakistan's nuclear spending as a share of their military budget is higher than India, at around 10%. However, they have a much smaller military budget, which means that they only have to spend around 1 billion in 2019. The number is lower than other countries, such as China and the UK, mainly because of their delivery systems are built cheaper, and thus are less efficient. Delivery systems don't really get talked about that much, but they are an integral part in the effectiveness of an attack. Both of these countries have reactors to easily produce more weapons, but the delivery systems are very costly, which means that they take longer to produce. This can also explain why Pakistan is building short-range tactical weapons, as their delivery systems may not be able to cover long distances. Another reason is that India built a nuke first, and since Pakistan did not have enough money to build some of their own, they elected to produce the less costly and less destructive tactical nukes. Another argument is that Indian cities are densely populated, and thus it would not take a large nuke to cause a lot of damage. The Indian government has stated that it has no need for tactical nuclear weapons. They prefer keeping high-yield weapons as they are concerned about China's involvement on the side of Pakistan should there be any type of conflict. However, high-yield weapons show hostile intent that make competing countries uneasy and may contribute to an escalation of an arms buildup. As a result, India should start developing low-yield weapons that are designed to target strategic military locations to ease Pakistan's view of the situation. It is debated whether tactical weapons increase the odds of an attack. Seeing as they are low-yield, states will be less reluctant to use them. However, because Pakistan cannot compete with India in terms of high-yield weapons, they must build tactical weapons to target Indian facilities in order to compensate. Therefore, I think that India should start building tactical weapons in order to reassure Pakistan that it will not target major cities. India's current stockpile is around the same amount as Pakistan's, though they have about 10 less. Still, their number is relatively low at 150. This may seem like a lot, but I don't believe it is close to being to the point of minimum deterrence, which I believe to be a number of around 300. Both France and the UK currently have 300 nukes, and have had 300 nukes since the end of the Cold War, and China has had around 300 nukes for about 25 years until Xi Jinping took power in 2011, at which point they started increasing at a rate of 10 per year. On a side note, I think this sort of shows China's aggressive strategy since he became leader. The reason I chose the number 300 for minimum deterrence is that I believe that China, with 360 nukes and counting, is aiming for nuclear superiority rather than minimum deterrence. When they were at about 300, they were aiming for a minimum deterrence strategy, but now that they've gone past that, I believe that they're going in the direction of nuclear superiority. If the point of minimum deterrence keeps being surpassed, then it can be assumed that both of these countries want to have nuclear superiority. Indeed, since 2007, they have been consistently producing 10 warheads per year. As a result, I don't think that neither country is aiming for nuclear superiority by means of attempting a rapid escalation of arms. Rather, it is a slow and steady approach, which makes a lot of sense. An example of rapid nuclear expansion, apart from US and USSR during the 1950s, is France. They only increased their arsenal once it became evident that the USSR was going to collapse. Because they were less fearful of a Soviet retaliation, they chose to build as many weapons as they could. This is because France associates nukes with independence and influence. Thus, having more nukes means that they don't have to rely on other countries in terms of military aid or foreign affairs, and that they could become a more influential country in the world. Therefore, so long as both India and Pakistan are somewhat militarily stable, then neither country will go for the same type of buildup as France. However, I do not believe either country will stop at 300. The reason being that China is currently above 300, and one of the reasons as to why is India's increasing arsenal that has led to a decision for China to increase its own stockpile. It's kind of a chicken and egg situation. China is building more because of India, but India will want to build more because of what China is doing, even though 300 nukes is most likely enough to repel and deter almost any threat. If China is above 300 to guard against a potential Indian threat, then India will no doubt also keep increasing its own stockpile to above 300 as well, to meet any potential Chinese threat. This creates a domino effect wherein Pakistan will also increase its stockpile to match that of India's. Pakistan's alliance with China is also very concerning to India, as they are between both countries. This is similar to how France kept increasing its own stockpile, not only to guard against the Soviets, but also to have more than the British, whom they saw as a competitor on the world stage. As a result, I believe it is a real possibility that India may choose to build more than 10 new weapons per year if China and Pakistan both keep increasing their own arsenals. Really, the only way to prevent India from creating more than, let's say, 30 new warheads per year and surpassing 300 is for China to stop increasing its own stockpile, which of course I don't believe they will do, as they have other military interests elsewhere. As for Pakistan, they have around 160 tactical weapons, which were developed because they felt that they could not match India's quantity of high-yield weapons. Moreover, they refused to agree to a no first strike use, whereas both India and China have both agreed to not strike first in the event of a conflict. This reason is why India feels that Pakistan is more likely to use their low-yield tactical weapons. As a result, they refuse to build tactical weapons of their own, fearing that it could lead to higher probability of a nuclear attack. I do not believe that Pakistan will accept a no first use policy, for they feel like their low-yield weapons do not pose a significant threat to India's big cities, and is only used to deter India in the event of a crisis. In addition, because India is a much larger country than Pakistan, both in terms of land area and population, Pakistan will have more targets than India. As a result, Pakistan will attempt to develop more nuclear weapons in order to meet these targets. However, I do not believe that India will stop building warheads once they reach the number necessary to cover all of their targets. Rather, I believe they will keep building weapons until Pakistan builds enough to cover all of their targets. Therefore, an Indian cessation of the construction of new weapons will depend on Pakistan and when Pakistan stops building new weapons. In conclusion, I expect the nuclear arsenals of both India and Pakistan to keep going up and to eventually surpass 300 warheads each. However, I think that the production of weapons will keep increasing at their current rates, which is about 10 per year. I do not believe either country is going for any type of nuclear superiority like what happened during the Cold War, or like what China seems to be doing right now, as their military spending remains quite low and the quantity of their stockpiles remains similar. Ultimately, the main issue going forward is that of Pakistan's refusal to adhere to a no first strike policy. As a result of this, India refuses to build tactical weapons and elects to keep building high yield ones. I believe that this is the most difficult issue to solve, and the solution, in my opinion, would be for India to start building tactical weapons first in order to ease Pakistan's threat perception to eventually make them agree to a no first strike policy.